Hi. Thank you so much, Manifestation, for printing my words. This one always gets me, and I actually got a little upset and tired by reading it again, but I think for my own therapy, I'm going to read this one out loud. Here it goes. After the fire, the ruins still warm. I didn't know a person could die twice, once in the body and once in the people they leave behind. You died, suddenly, stupidly, in a way that still doesn't feel real. But the second death was mine, not fatal, just eternal. A collapse so quiet that the world didn't flinch. Buildings stayed upright, trains came on time, people kept ordering their coffees with oat milk, and too much certainty. Meanwhile, I was trying to learn how to breathe inside a life that no longer recognized its own shape. Grief makes the familiar tilt. Grief invents new syntax. Grief turns the ground into a trapdoor. And the worst part? No one prepared me for the way your absence would take up more space than you ever did when you were alive. You were a wildfire, even then. Too bright, too hot, consuming oxygen and reason. You'd walk into a room and I'd brace myself, already knowing something in me would ignite. You didn't love gently. You didn't even enter anyone's life without rearranging the furniture, knocking old walls down, erecting new ones, leaving fingerprints on the beams. I thought it was passion. Now I know it was hunger, yours and mine. When you touched me, it wasn't tenderness. It was a match striking its own flint, proud of its spark, unaware of the forest behind it. And I was the forest, dense, long neglected, pretending to be the damp enough not to burn. But I did. God, I burned. At the time, I called it love. Later, I learnt that word was release. The kind that looks like freedom when the flames are still moving, but like ruin the morning after. When you died, everyone told me, take your time. As if time was something I could hold. As if time was something the very thing that betrayed you, snapping shut like a trap around the ankles of your last breath. The silence that followed was not peaceful, it was invasive. No one warns you that the dead continue talking, just not out loud. Their voice becomes a texture beneath your ribs, a pulse behind your thoughts, a grammar that rearranges your days. You haunt me, but not like a ghost wandering the hallway. You haunt me like a scent that lives in the streets, or even in the sheets, no matter how many times you wash them. You haunt me in the way trauma remembers, even after the mind forgets. You haunt me in the places I thought I had walled off. The soft ones, the foolish ones, the ones that believed people could be fixed with enough love or enough patience. The truth is, I was not mourning just you. I was mourning the version of myself that still trusted fire. People romanticize grief, but mine was feral. It had teeth. It arrived without flowers, without sympathy, without any sympathy cards, without a single cinematic slow motion mortgage. Sorry. Without a single cinematic slow motion montage. It showed up like a debt collector. No excuses, no mercy, no extensions. I learnt that losing someone you love feels nothing like the movies. It's not poetic. It's not transformative. It's not an invitation to become enlightened. Grief is paperwork. It's cleaning out drawers that still smell like someone you can't touch. It's deleting contacts you've memorized. It's explaining to strangers why your voice cracks in the detergent aisle. It's the humiliation of surviving someone who once made you feel alive, but also almost buried you alive. And I hated you for that, for dying, for leaving me and the rubble, for choosing silence even before silence became permanent. You'd already begun disappearing long before death took its final swipe. You had withdrawn into that cold, unreachable place where I could see you breathing but couldn't find you anymore. You said you needed space. You said you needed peace. You said too many things that contradicted everything you said. And I, too loyal, too soft, too conditioned to hold what others dropped, stayed. I tried to read the smoke signals rising from you, thinking if I deciphered them fast enough, I could keep the worst from happening. But I'm no prophet, I'm no firefighter. And I could not stop you from walking into your own ending. I could not. After you were gone, people said things meant to soothe. He's in a better place now. Time heals. You'll find closure. You're strong. Strength wasn't the problem. Survival was. No one tells you that grief changes your equilibrium. It moves in like a roommate who doesn't pay rent, doesn't sleep, and turns off and on the lights at 3 a.m. in the morning. No one warns you that your body will keep flinching at sounds that resemble the way they once said your name. No one warns you that anger and love can coexist so fiercely that you can't tell which one is burning your throat. I loved you. I resented you. Both are still true. I kept waiting for the fire inside me to die, for the smoke to clear, for the emotional debris to make sense. But healing is not linear. Grief is not logical. The ruins don't rebuild themselves just because you've decided it's time to move on. Here's what I know now. Some losses don't end. They integrate. They become the architecture of who you are. Your absence became a blueprint. Your silence became a new language. Your death became the measuring stick for every kind of pain that came after. People like to talk about letting go as if grief is a balloon and we have fingers light enough to release it. But letting go is not my concern. I'm more interested in living with the parts of you I never asked to inherit. The parts that cling like ash, the parts I cannot shake, the parts that still grow faintly when no one is looking. I don't want to immortalize you, but I also refuse to erase you. You are not all light, and I was not all grace. We were flawed in each ways that make us human, fragile, and combustible. I've stopped pretending you are a lesson. You were a wound, and wounds do not always heal cleanly. If anything amazes me, it's this. The runes still warm when I touch them. And maybe that's the point. Maybe, just maybe, the devastation you left inside me is not a failure to move on, but proof that I once felt something real enough to scar. I don't seek closure anymore. Closure is a myth sold by people afraid of unfinished stories. Our story will always be unfinished. Half built, half burnt, half remembered, half damned. A structure that stands because it refuses to fall entirely. Sometimes survival looks like rebuilding. Sometimes it looks like living beside the wreckage. And sometimes it looks like placing your hand on the charred wood and admitting he was a wildfire. I was the forest. Yes, the fire is out, but the runes still remember. And somehow so do I. And so I walk forward now, not entirely rebuilt, but regrow. Thank you.